Okay, so I saw an interesting post on Twitter, and it really goes into Andy's demeanor. Yeah, the way Andy has been written this season has really made fans go back to earlier seasons to see, how if the Andy we're seeing in season 9 is that far of a stretch from the persona we've seen her, you know, portray herself to be over the past several seasons. I mean, I've said for a while she's always been a villain in my eyes, even since season 1. And she's placed this facade of being a, good person who cares about others. But in all actuality, her, Karen, and Sabrina are all kind of cut from the same mold in terms of only being involved with certain people so long as they serve a purpose. Once that purpose has been served and or that person is no longer able to provide a needed service, they're discarded. With Andi, the way she's treated Fatima has really made fans, upset at her. And a lot of people were talking about how, it's interesting how Andi was supportive of Zach and Fatima, but was telling Karen to move on. Is this one of those situations where maybe Andi felt that Zach was the best Fatima could do, so she supported their budding romance at the time back in like season 3, season 4, and just felt like, Karen was too good for Zach, but Zach wasn't too good for Fatima, aka her assistant. Well, that's the best you can do. That's an interesting thought, but I will say this much. You got to think about the way Andi reacted when Fatima told Andi about the way Zach carried himself. Because you have to remember, for about 3 years in the on and... You know what? Despite Zach and Karen's relationship being on and off in a toxic cycle for 3 years, regardless of how long these two were actually together during that 3-year span, there's no doubt in my mind that not just Andi, but Sabrina and Karen, but mostly Andi, Sabrina and Danny, but mostly Andi, for just 3 years nonstop, heard nothing but awful things about Zach. So I never had an issue with Andi being flabbergasted, bamboozled, shocked, appalled, or, scoffing at Fatima's declarations of how sweet Zach is, how open and honest he is. It makes sense because this is not the Zach that Andi knew. I mean, let's be real. There could be, for an example, a friend of yours from high school that you've been friends with even into like your 30s or whatever. And, they had a boyfriend or girlfriend. They had a partner during high school, but that girl, she's not about much. All she does is rely on her looks to get her as far as she can in life. Or this guy's a bum, he doesn't even have a car or a job or whatever. So then fast forward to the future, when you hear about that person doing well for themselves and whatnot, or man, this person, instead of letting themselves go even further down the, unhealthy path because they were big in school, but look, these are like, they're muscular now, or she's slim now, or, they have this awesome job. You're like, wait, Trevor or Sarah? Because, you're only accustomed to the way you knew them. But I take it to another level with Andi because the bait and switch was really quick. I mean, think about it this way. In season 1, Zach and Karen were on and off a couple more times before she kicked them out. And that was the end of that. And then a couple weeks later, he's with Fatima, and all of a sudden Andi is supposed to believe that Zach is completely different. But it just goes to show that, yeah, women can call men trash and whatnot, but sometimes it's not that the man himself is trash, it's that he was with the wrong woman. A woman who tears a man down versus a woman that builds a man up. So I think that on some level, you could say, yeah, Andi just felt like Fatima, that's the best she can do. She can get with Zach because, hey, if Fatima's with Zach, that means my girl can get with someone who's better than him. I could see that is a very compelling argument, and I could see either side of it. But I think she was genuinely happy that Fatima was happy. But when I'm looking at the way Andi's been moving lately, and that whenever Fatima finds some sort of success or happiness, Andi just has to crap all over it. But then you also got to remember, at the time in those earlier seasons, Andi was still in the on again, off again thing with Gary, then enter Robin. So I'd say that if, let's say, Andi was alone at that time, which she never is, then maybe she would have said something about it. But I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you could argue Andi had that, well, if you like it, I love it energy, but it really doesn't matter because at the end of the day, these two are made for each other, even if the writing doesn't always depict it. And Zach is a much better man with Fatima than he ever was with Karen. So regardless as to what Andi thinks, you can't deny the level up. So like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.